for you it shall be as meat, and every green herb. And he didn't just give the green herbs and the herbs-bearing seeds to mankind. He also gave them to every creature who walks upon the earth. And it's important for us to recognize that we're not just inducing essential resource scarcity on ourselves. There are other species that benefit tremendously and depend on cannabis. And inducing a scarcity that we have exceeds our rightful authority. Mankind is far beyond its rightful authority in legislating the scarcity of a unique and essential natural resource upon which other species also depend for their survival. It's really important for us to recognize that the indicator species like the bees and the coral reefs and the phytoplankton and the krill and all of these very delicate organisms are portending what mankind potentially could stumble into. And we're stumbling right now, and we need to stop stumbling. We need real leadership. We need change. And what I've done is I've researched something called essential civilian demand. And essential civilian demand is referenced in several federal documents in the United States. The most recent was a presidential executive order signed by President Obama on March 16, 2012. Executive Order 13603 references hemp as a strategic food resource. And of course, it's strategic in many other ways. In fact, one of the things that makes cannabis both unique and essential is that it's the only crop, and this is important, this is absolutely key to understand. Cannabis is the only crop that produces complete nutrition and sustainable biofuels, organic, non-GMO biofuels, from the same harvest, from the same field during the same growing season. I'll say that again because it's important. Cannabis is the only crop that produces both complete nutrition and sustainable biofuels from the same harvest. It means that when you're growing your energy, you're not inducing food insecurity. In fact, you are increasing food insecurity. You're increasing food security and nutrition by introducing what's been termed by my friend Dr. William Courtney, who spoke last year at the World Hemp Congress in Slovenia, that cannabis is a dietary essential. In fact, it's a dietary essential from conception to death. And there's no court on earth that has rightful jurisdiction over natural resources that are both unique and essential. And cannabis is essential for several reasons. Nutritionally, it's the only common seed with 3 essential fatty acids in proper proportion for long-term consumption. It's also the best available source of organic vegetable protein on the planet. Protein production determines carrying capacity. In population dynamics, you don't have any or carbohydrates. That's easy. But your protein is what determines how many people can live on any given area of land. Cannabis is the best available source of organic vegetable protein on Earth. It also contains just an amazing menu of nutrition, enormous quantities of vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, well known to have therapeutic benefit. It also has all of the essential amino acids in meaningful quantities, in particular arginine, which is a very, very important. So this is not optional. As I said before, it's the only crop that produces both complete nutrition and sustainable biofuels from the same harvest. And the third thing that makes it absolutely critical is it's the only crop that can produce the quantity of atmospheric aerosol monoterpenes in the time that we may have left to heal the planet of global broiling, which is what I call the increase in UVB radiation. If you Google global broiling, there's no one else writing about it. I'm the only person that is referencing the potential for cannabis in healing the stratosphere. And it really shouldn't be that way. I've made every effort to get this information out, and it really should have been taken up by now. There's a disconnect somewhere that needs to be reconnected, and the urgency couldn't be greater. In the United States, and in the best interest of Slovenia and the rest of the world, right now in the Midwest United States, the feral hemp seed is ripening in places like Kentucky and Illinois and Kansas. And all of those places experienced extreme drought last year in 2012. And so any of the plants that survive that drought and are producing viable seed this year have been adapted to the conditions, the extreme conditions, not only the heat, but also the increased UV exposure that goes along with that. Now, another interesting thing to know is that the cannabis responds favorably to increased UV. It produces an abundance of resin at high altitude, which is a good thing because at high altitude, there's a lot less atmosphere to protect you from the UV radiation. And likewise, if you're standing in a place very or sand, light-colored sand, or light-colored concrete, you experience a doubling in the UV exposure. So one of the interesting relationships in all of this is the nutritional benefit of ingesting raw cannabis. And this is something I've been doing since 1997 when I helped to found Green Prisoners Release and the Cannabis College in Amsterdam. I wrote the manifesto for the Cannabis College, the first cannabis college in the world in Amsterdam in 1998. And you can find it online. The title of it is The Fundamental Challenge of Our Time. And I sent that to the United Nations in Geneva, the High Commissioner. Wasn't high enough, apparently. I sent it to William Clinton in the White House, and I sent it to George Soros. And what it was essentially was a document that explained why cannabis couldn't possibly be within the rightful jurisdiction of court, any court. And at that time, I wasn't aware, and science hadn't figured out that the boreal forests and the phytoplankton produce these atmospheric aerosols that protect us. So at that time, the fundamental challenge didn't include the global broiling information. But today, all of the information in this, the fundamental challenge of our time right there, this is antiquated in comparison to the threat posed by the increased solubility of mercury and arsenic as a result of the increase in UVB radiation. Comparison. The increase in UVB radiation also exacerbates the warming. There's a lot of bad news associated with failing to do what needs to be done. And there's a lot of joy in carrying out our task. We have put ourselves in the ironic position of being cannabis farmers, whether we like it or not. We need to plant cannabis as fast as we can, everywhere we can, and hope that it can adapt to the conditions that are favorable to production of atmospheric monoterpenes and protein. You know, the extreme food insecurity right now on the planet is something that it's just well, it's a great threat, and to be responsible for addressing it is the highest priority. I have an essay online called Cannabis versus Global Broiling, and in that document there are references to 7 executive orders signed by 7 American presidents, all of whom recognize cannabis as a strategic resource. As far back as the 1700s, Thomas Jefferson identified cannabis as being the first necessity for the wealth and protection of the country. And he was actually understating it, because cannabis is both unique and essential to the ecological systemic integrity of this planet. And until we acknowledge the true value of it and achieve a polar shift in values, we will be at the mercy of an indecisive leadership and an inertial trajectory that's taking us toward global extinction. When you base an economic system on toxic, unevenly distributed, finite chemicals, you disconnect from the spiritual relationship and the moral responsibility that goes with that spiritual relationship to a force greater than ourselves. The natural order is what governs this planet. And we've been violating the laws of the natural order because we induced essential resource scarcity. So the only thing that we thought to do was to burn coal and carbon, fossil fuels, petroleum, and create nuclear power plants and make energy that way. But the fact is, if we regionalize our energy production through the agricultural rotation of cannabis with other crops, we could become much more energy efficient to where we didn't need so much fuel. We don't need to transport food halfway around the world to eat. We can grow food in the region where we live in greenhouses if necessary quite well. So I think what the priority is to recognize that there is a protocol, essential civilian demand, referred to by the United States government, that is also relevant to the welfare of the rest of the world. And so what I've been doing, because my best friend has been in federal prison for the last 3 years, my life has just been focused on doing everything I can to get him out. And he's had no trial, been refused bail 8 times, and denied visitors. National Geographic wanted to interview him, Newsweek wanted to interview him, and Honolulu Civil Beat wanted to interview him, and all 3 reporters were turned away by the work. So the drug war is not really a drug war, it's an herb war.